Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Granta Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. You can read these together. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayat. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. Rendering service unto the personality of Godhead, whose praise of transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Okay, we can do a Mangala Charana, praying for some mercy that this fallen soul can hopefully say something, at least a little, in the glorification of Krishna. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Rati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitangscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandha Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Thank you all for being here. We got a small crew today. Personally, I'm going to probably be relying on Super Soul a lot in this class. Because I read it, but I'm not sure I have much to present. So we'll see what discussion comes out, but yeah, please do be in a sharing mood. Praying for the mercy of all the Vaishnavas and the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. Today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, the status quo. We're on the teachings of Lord Kapila. And we're finishing up the chapter 26. We've been on this chapter for a while. Chapter is called Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. So we've been talking about Devahutu's questions, and he's now describing the different categories of absolute truth. And we're getting into a very interesting section. It's quite esoteric, so I'm not really sure exactly what's going on. But we can just read it and, maybe we'll find out what's happening. So we're doing 62 through 71, 72. But I'm thinking we should also just read 61 so that we can just see what was happening before.
61. After the mind and the moon appeared, intelligence appeared next. And after intelligence, Lord Brahma appeared. Then the false ego appeared, and then Lord Shiva. And after the appearance of Lord Shiva came consciousness and the deity presiding over consciousness.
So this text is wrapping up the previous section where everything is kind of coming into existence. We were talking about, at least the last class I remember was Srinath Krishna Puru's, right? It was on Sunday. And he was talking about the creation of sound, the creation of the different elements. So we've gotten all the way up to the mind and the creation of the demigods over it. And now maybe everyone can read 2 texts or 3 texts. There's a few of us.
When the demigods are presiding deities of the various senses were thus manifested, they wanted to wake their origin of appearance. But upon failing to do so, they rendered the body of the Virat Purusha, one after another, in order to wake him.
Yeah, so this section, it's kind of interesting. What's going to happen is all these demigods are going to re-enter where they just came from. So Brahma came from the mind of the Virat Purusha. And here's like kind of a, let's see, here's a little visualization. Yeah, it's pretty much impossible to visualize this form as it's so kind of, I guess, abstract or so incomprehensible. But this is kind of like at least an illustration that was put in the books on kind of what we can see from this form. All right.
The god of fire entered his mouth with the organ of speech, but the Virat Purusha could not be aroused. Then the god of wind entered his nostrils with the sense of smell, but still the Virat Purusha refused to be awakened.
Yeah, so this section, it's actually, what's the word, analogous? Basically, it's an analogy. So we're talking about this Virat Purusha who's asleep. This Virat Purusha is sleeping. And we're seeing how these different things are unable to wake him. And so we're going to come to a final point in the end, but basically, we can, see the different senses and understand what's happening.
The sun god entered the eyes of the Virat Purusha with the sense of sight, but still the Virat Purusha did not get up. Similarly, the predominating deities of the directions entered through his ears with the sense of hearing, but still he did not wake up.
Okay, so they're trying to wake up the universal form, and somehow all these senses are not able to wake him up.
65. The predominating deities of the skin, herbs, and seasoning plants entered the skin of the Virat Purusha with the hair of the body, but the cosmic being refused to get up even then. The god predominating over water entered his organ of generation with the faculty of procreation, but the Virat Purusha would still not arise. 66. The god of death entered his anus with the organ of defecation, but the Virat Purusha could not be spurred to activity. The god Indra entered the hands with their power of grasping and dropping things, but the Virat Purusha would not get up even then. Lord Vishnu entered his feet with the faculty of locomotion, but the Virat Purusha refused to stand up even then. The rivers entered his blood vessels with the blood and the power of circulation, but still the cosmic being could not be made to stir. The ocean entered his abdomen with hunger and thirst, But the cosmic being refused to rise even then. The moon god entered his heart within the mind, but the cosmic being would not be roused. Brahma also entered his heart with intelligence, but even then the cosmic being could not be prevailed upon to get up. Lord Rudra also entered his heart with the ego, but even then the cosmic being did not stir.
Okay, yeah, so there's this predicament. All the demigods are trying so hard to wake up the sleeping cosmic being, the Virat Purusha.
However, when the inner controller, the deity presiding over consciousness, entered the heart with reason, at that very moment the cosmic being arose from the causal waters.
So who is the presiding deity over consciousness? Paramatma, yes. Super soul. So only when the super soul brought consciousness, the Virat Purusha was able to wake up.
When a man is sleeping, all his material assets, namely the vital energy, the senses for recording knowledge, the senses for working, the mind and the intelligence, cannot arouse him. He can be aroused only when the supersoul helps him.
Okay. And then, yeah, you can just read this last text.
Therefore, through devotion, detachment, and advancement in spiritual knowledge, acquired through concentrated devotional service, one should contemplate the Supersoul as present in this very body, although simultaneously apart from it.
Okay, and this is the text we're going to do. Tamasmin pratyagatmanam Tamasmin pratyagatmanam Ya yoga pavrittaya Bhaktya viraktya jnanena Vivichat mani chintayat Tamasmin pratyagatmanam Hiya yoga pravrityaya Bhaktya viraktya jnanena Vivichatmani chintayat. Please chant. Tamasmin pratyagatmanam Ya yoga pravrittaya jnanena vivichatmani chintayat. Tamasmin pratyagatmanam Ya yoga pravrittaya Bhaktya viraktya jnanena Tamasmin pratyagatmanam jnanena vivichatmani chintayat. Synonyms altogether. Tam, upon him. Asmin, in this. Pratyak, atmanam, the super soul. Ya, with the mind. Yoga pravrittaya, engaged in devotional service. Bhaktya, through devotion. Viraktya, through detachment. Jnanena, through spiritual knowledge. Vivichya, considering carefully. Atmani, in the body. Chintayat, one should contemplate. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Ki Jai. Therefore, through devotion, detachment, and advancement in spiritual knowledge acquired through concentrated devotional service, one should contemplate that supersoul as present in this very body, although simultaneously apart from it. Okay, so devotion, detachment, advancement in spiritual knowledge, and concentrated devotional service. Very nice. The mic.
One can realize the supersoul within oneself. He is within one's body but apart from the body, or transcendental to the body. Although sitting in the same body as the individual soul, the supersoul has no affection for the body, whereas the individual soul does. Therefore, one has to detach himself from this material body by discharging devotional service. It is clearly mentioned here, bhaktya, that one has to execute devotional service to the Supreme. As it is stated in the first canto, second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam 127, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha, when Vasudeva, the all-pervading Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is served in completely the pure devotion, detachment from the material world immediately begins. The purpose of Sankhya is to detach oneself from material contamination. This can be achieved simply by devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one is detached from the attractions of material prosperity, one can actually concentrate his mind upon the Supersoul. As long as the mind is distracted towards the material, there is no possibility of concentrating one's mind and intelligence upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or his partial representation, Supersoul. In other words, one cannot concentrate one's mind and energy upon the Supreme unless one is detached from the material world. Following detachment from the material world, one can attain transcendental knowledge of the Absolute Truth. As long as one is entangled in sense enjoyment or material enjoyment, it is not possible to understand the Absolute Truth. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 18:54. One who is freed from material contamination is joyful and can enter into devotional service, and by devotional service he can be liberated. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, it is stated that one becomes joyful by discharging devotional service. In that joyful attitude, one can understand the science of God, or Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, it's not possible. The analytical study of the elements of material nature and the concentration of the mind upon the Supersoul are the sum and substance of the Sankhya philosophical system. The perfection of this Sankhya Yoga culminates in devotional service unto the Absolute Truth.
Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the third canto, 26th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, titled Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. Hari Bol. Alright, so, yeah, it's a very interesting section. If we look at the previous text, we can see in the purport that actually this situation where the Virat Purusha won't wake up, no matter how many of the material senses are being agitated or things like that, he still won't wake up. It's actually an analogy to our own situation, our own body, both literally and not literally. It's described how we wake up every day from the Supersoul. The Supersoul actually wakes us up. And that's kind of way over my head. I don't know. This morning I had my alarm and then went off, and then I had a second alarm, and I had a third alarm too. It's like I woke up once, and I went back to sleep, and I woke up again. And so in my head I'm like, wait, isn't my alarm waking me up? But I'm not exactly sure, but we can see how even if the sense of hearing is agitated by the demigods, still the Virat Purusha will not wake up, even if light or so. Literally, consciousness is brought about from the Supersoul, and that's how we are able to be conscious. is by the grace of the Super Soul. Jai Super Soul. And then, not as literally, but we can see that we're all sleeping in some way. We're all, what is sleeping? Sleeping is in ignorance. We're in, I mean, at least I'll sleep, not sleep for myself, speak for myself. That I am definitely in ignorance. And ignorant of what? Ignorant of Krishna. And so we're seeing that no amount of material, anything is able to reawaken that consciousness, that Krishna consciousness. The sight can't wake up Krishna consciousness. Any of the organs. So it's like this useless endeavor to try to arouse our own consciousness through material means. And that's why, in this last text, Kapila Dev is saying that the only way we ourselves can come to consciousness. He's saying, okay, the Virat Purusha was woken up, and so seeing this, we should understand that we should also worship the Super Soul. And so, if we want to gain consciousness through devotion, detachment, advancement in spiritual knowledge, and advancement in spiritual knowledge acquired through concentrated devotional service, we should contemplate that Super Soul. So, we're being told how we can wake up is through contemplating on the Super Soul. So I thought we can do that very thing and read this very famous verse. Srila Prabhupada, I remember I was reading this section of the Bhagavatam. It was like every single purport he was quoting this verse practically. This verse is like one of the most quoted verses that Srila Prabhupada would use. 15:15. Yeah. Bhagavad Gita, yeah. Maybe if we all want to say this together. Sarvasya jaham hridisani vishto mata smitir jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarve ahameva vedyo vedanta krid veda videva chaham. I'm seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. All right. Maybe can someone read the purport? You can hear from Srila Prabhupada and contemplate on the Super Soul.
The Supreme Lord is situated as Paramatma in everyone's heart, and it is from Him that all activities are initiated. The living entity forgets everything of his past life, but he has to act according to the directions of the Supreme Lord, who is the witness to all his work. Therefore, he begins his work according to his past deeds. Required knowledge is supplied to him, and remembrance is given to him, and he forgets also about his past life. Thus the Lord is not only all-pervading, He is also localized in every individual heart. He awards the different relative results. He is worshipable not only as the impersonal Brahman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the localized Paramatma, but as the form of the incarnation of the Vedas as well. The Vedas give the right direction to people so that they can properly mold their lives and come back to Godhead, back to home. The Vedas offer knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and Krishna in his incarnation as Vyasa, and Vyasadeva is the compiler of the Vedanta Sutra. The commentation on the Vedanta Sutra by Vyasadeva in the Srimad Bhagavatam gives the real understanding of Vedanta Sutra. The Supreme Lord is so full that for the deliverance of the conditioned soul, He is the supplier and digester of foodstuff, the witness of His activities, and the giver of knowledge in the form of the Vedas, and as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, the teacher of the Bhagavad Gita. He is worshipable by the conditioned soul, thus it is all good, God is all merciful.
Okay, so that's kind of the section of the purport about the Super Soul. And let's see, we have a nice picture of Super Soul, those popular BBT pictures. And yeah, I found it significant that Krishna, he's saying that from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Or when I first started like doing class in the morning, I would also say this verse because I thought like, oh, like I don't want to blank out. I don't. So please bring me remembrance and don't bring me forgetfulness. But I haven't been saying it lately, probably because I'm not as sincere. But yeah, I thought it's nice, and we can understand how Super Soul is really the provider of everything, as we were saying. The only way that we're actually able to forget Krishna in this material world is that Super Soul brings about that forgetfulness. And similarly, when it's time to reawaken our Krishna consciousness, it's Super Soul that will, from within, bring that consciousness about. From me come remembrance. And we understand that Krishna, we don't actually do the work ourselves, you can say. Like when we practice bhakti, it's not that we're exactly doing it, but Krishna is cleaning our heart. We're not really cleaning our own heart, but Krishna from within is cleaning our heart for us. Krishna, Prabhupada says, man proposes, God disposes. And that's true in bhakti as well, is that we're given these services, we're given this, we're given that to do, and we can simply desire it. And then it will be either carried out or not carried out by Super Soul. We can see in book distribution, it's really not about the kind of words that we use or the kind of approach. You like put like a little trap there and then like a book will pop out, or you have like this sign that says just the right thing. But it's really about your connection with Super Soul, and then your ability to connect to, or I guess when you connect to Super Soul's in their heart as well. And who's going to change their heart? Who's going to soften their heart? It's Super Soul. I was listening to these Prabhupada memories by Janava Devi, and she was actually, she was here when Kalachandji was installed in 1972. And Kalachandji had like this sticky stuff on him, and then they put like paint remover, and they accidentally took off all of Kalachandji's paint, and then Prabhupada was very upset, but that's another story. But she was talking to Srila Prabhupada, and she's a painter. She's an artist, and the devotees, they were going to take a trip to India so that they could see the architecture of India, and so that they could paint better. They could paint like what they saw there. And Prabhupada, he said, we're not archaeologists. And he made the point that actually this painting, it's coming from Super Soul. It's coming from being in touch with Super Soul. It's not from your own sense perception. A senior devotee was telling me that deity worship, deity dressing, it's like, if it's just coming from your mind, it's not the actual thing. It's mainly about being in touch with that Super Soul, being in touch with Krishna's desire, and then thus trying to act in that way. So, yeah, it's interesting to think about how bhakti, Krishna gives us the instruction, he gives us the means to do it, and then when we do it, but we don't actually do it because Krishna did it, he's then pleased. I thought it was sweet. In the Bhagavatam, it talks about how Krishna tells Brahma, create the universe. Now, what does Krishna do? He gives Brahma all the ingredients, and then he gives Brahma the intelligence to do it, and then it's carried out by Krishna through Brahma, and then when Brahma does it, Krishna is so pleased with him. And it's sweet to think about how Krishna, he helps us through every single step of the way, and he practically does it for us. And he's still so pleased, so happy to see that we are endeavoring in this way. I was thinking we can share some thoughts or experiences in Jai Hari Prabhu. Maybe, okay.
So Prabhu, like the way you mentioned, right? We don't do anything. Super Soul or Krishna facilitates. So maybe our only territory is to desire, and then everything is being fulfilled. We are not the doer. But with the same approach and philosophy, like, are we not making, or are we not leading to laziness? Oh, I don't do anything. Anyways, Krishna is doing.
Yeah.
So, that approach, because I'm not the doer, I can only desire. I want so many things in life, but I'm not the doer anyways. Just desire and sit quietly. Just desire and sit quietly, because anyways I'm not the doer. So are we not making ourselves lazy in this approach? And if not, like, how do we take it?
Thank you. What a practical
Yeah.
question on how to understand this concept that we're not the doer, but we still have things to do. We still have service to do. My spiritual master, he likes this kind of phrase where I'm going to try to get it right, but you pray as if everything depends on Krishna, but then you act as if everything depends on you. So in your own prayer internally, you're understanding that everything is coming from Krishna. Krishna is the only way that this can be successful, but still in your external activities, you act as though everything is depending on you. You act as though, and if anyone has any other thoughts on this, how to avoid kind of this laziness or this complacency with thinking that you're not the doer.
Okay, so there is one beautiful verse in Bhagavad Gita. It says, Upadrishta Anumanta Bharta Bhokta Maheshwara Paramatmeti Chapyapto Dehesmin Purushapara. The definition of the super soul is given as Upadrishta, is the overseer. Anumanta, he is the sanctioner. So that is the most important aspect here. And Bharta, he is the maintainer and he is the supreme enjoyer. So as and when the soul desires something, right, that is the seed. When we desire, depending upon our previous karmas, current karmas and everything else, and there are several other factors as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, right? The example is given, if once I make the decision of, let's say, going to Germany, I get on the airplane which goes to Germany. So that is my desire which takes me on that airplane. But on that airplane, there are several other factors. That I may choose to slit someone's throat, I may choose to be a good citizen, and accordingly, that will give birth or rise to the different karmas. And once I get on the plane, immediately I cannot go back, right? So there are several other factors. So the origin is our desire, and then there is the most important aspect, which is the sanction, Anumanta. The super soul has to sanction it, depending on my karma. There are several people in India who want to come to US. But unless and until it is sanctioned by the super soul, depending on our past karma and everything else, right, one cannot make it. It is as simple as that. So that was my thought. And another aspect I was thinking, as you mentioned in your class, I'm just paraphrasing as is mentioned by Prabhupada in the purport, like several other aspects of our senses, right, knowledge gathering, they cannot wake us up. It is a super soul. I remember growing up, I had heard this, that before going to bed, let's say you are in a desperate need to wake up at certain time because you have an exam or something. So you just pray to your pillow before you go into bed. And for sure, it will happen. So I used to do that, and each time I did that, it happened. So later on, when I came to Krishna consciousness, I came to this understanding that it is not the pillow who is fulfilling your desire, it is the super soul. So in this context, I remember in my earlier days of ISKCON, I heard a beautiful point from one senior devotee. He had mentioned this. Typically in India, also in the other Abrahamic faith, like typically Islam, they in their day-to-day talk, Their understanding is that God is situated up above in the sky. You know. But here we get this understanding that we have a localized aspect of God also. And Bhagavad Gita informs us that He has been our true friend. We give up this body, we lose all the connections which are there with this body, the relatives and everything. But Super Soul, can you imagine? Super Soul has been there since the time we came into this material world. Since that point of time of immemorial, right? He's been always there with us. So he made this beautiful point. He said, in day-to-day talk, usually people tend to say, in Hindi there is a word called Uparwala, means one who is situated. So when we are, even in our talk, when we say that, that reflects on our consciousness, that we feel that distance. The Lord is situated up there, way up there, way too far, right? Why can't we change within our talk also when we say, instead of saying Uparwala, Unki Krupa se in Hindi, Unki means His, just to literally translate it, by His grace. Why do we say His? When we say that, we are actually distancing ourselves from Him. So we have to, instead of that, we have to say Inki Krupa se. Inki means, you can literally translate it into English, there are limitations here, but there is a difference in Hindi when you say Unki and Inki, means His and here, one who is situated so close in my heart, So that will narrow down the distance, between, as regards our understanding, that He's not just there or there, up there. He's constantly there with me in the heart. And every single thing that, just like we like to share with our closest friend, if we just develop that consciousness of sharing it with Him, thinking that He's always here, that can also save us, Prabhupada says, in one of the purpose in 13th chapter, which will save us from getting into the bad, doing bad things. It is said, integrity is tested when we are alone. When we are amidst the devotees, it's so easy to portray myself to be a devotee. I'm talking about myself. When I'm alone, I take all the liberty and I tend to forget. So if you're conscious about that super soul, then probably we can be saved.
Nice points.
Okay, I will read on his behalf. This great soul. A devotee's love and desire to please Krishna overcomes the tendency to be lazy. A devotee's love and desire to please Krishna overcomes the tendency to be lazy. Jai. Oh, wait a minute. Can I see that one more time? Can I see the board one more time? Yeah. I'm also going to take a picture. Okay. So, basically, I also had a question about how it works, because Krishna says that He is a source of remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness, and I was just kind of, thinking. Thank you, Prabhu. I was just kind of thinking about day-to-day remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness, because at the first time I read that, I was thinking about kind of like in general for like one specific action or point of like one time of being, right? But then I started thinking, wait a minute, the day is full of so many different times and points and remembrances and forgetfulness, right? And if Krishna is the one that's behind it all, then how is it that we can? Then where are we? Where are we in that situation, right? Like it's like, so it just seems like if we say I just don't get it. I don't. Okay, that's it. That's my question.
I have a small thought on this, but I'd also love to hear everyone else's points. But kind of our natural constitutional situation is to be in remembrance of Krishna. That's the natural state of the soul, is that we're always connected with Krishna. And the only thing that's stopping us from remembering Krishna is this powerful illusory energy. Krishna says, Daivye Shaguna Mayi Mama Maya Durateya. So he's saying that this divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes, is practically impossible for us to overcome on our own. And so, by Krishna's grace, he's actually lifting the curtain. He's lifting this veil. And so, I guess, in our day-to-day life, it's like, I don't know, he's kind of like, maybe he'll hold it open longer, or he'll close it sooner, or things like that, depending on our sincerity, depending on our desire. So, that's a thought I had. Maybe Gokul or Jose.
So, well, I just have one question about that. It's so basically, because he's the doer, but yet we have to endeavor, right? Endeavor is kind of like action. So we are the doer of our desire, but he is the doer of our action? Or am I getting that correct?
Yeah, basically we're the desirer.
The desirers.
Yeah. Was there
Like
any thoughts? Oh.
I would say to realize that we're not the doer is probably one of the most difficult things to realize. But I would say that doing Sankirtan gives you that opportunity, because on our own, what we're dealing with is our faith and our discipline. And then when you engage yourself in spreading Lord Chaitanya's mission, Srila Prabhupada's mission, then you invoke another aspect of our spirituality, which is the Lord's causeless mercy, Lord Chaitanya's mercy. And that's what picks us up and gives us, the window of, spiritual vision to be able to see, to actually have those realizations. We can intellectualize the philosophy, but the actual realization, like in Sanskrit you have Gyan and Vigyan. So we can talk about it and get some theoretical understanding of it, intellectual understanding of it. But the actual realization will come when you apply the philosophy, and that's the real thing. That's the real answer to the question. The real answer is faith and discipline can take you so far, but the causeless mercy of the Lord is what you're talking about. Lifting that veil comes when we actually take up Lord Chaitanya's mission. That's all.
Thank you. Glories of Sankirtan.
I was just thinking about the analogy in this aspect. When Krishna says, Ahankara vimudatma kartam, out of false ego, we think we are the doer. So the analogy that comes to my mind is, let's say I have acquired the knowledge of cooking and I'm proficient in cooking. Okay. So that knowledge has come from somebody else. Then I decide to go for one particular recipe. That's my desire. That desire takes a seed in my heart, so I want to make something. But now that desire is not all in all. I'm dependent on the other material ingredients, the setup, kitchen setup, and everything else. And most importantly, the fire. Without fire, you cannot cook anything. Like the material ingredients, all material ingredients are there, but unless that fire, the Supreme Lord, he glances over, nothing is going to cook the material creation. Similarly here also, that fire is the super soul, and also the knowledge that I have acquired, the cooking knowledge. Matta smritir jnanam apohanam, the remembrance and forgetfulness comes from me, super soul said. If he just turns that switch off, all of my knowledge is gone. So in that sense, when I think that I cooked this, I want the credit all for myself. That is out of ignorance or false ego, to think that I am the doer. Actually, there are several other factors upon whom I am dependent, right?
Yeah. We don't want to be thieves. That's what the third chapter talks about. The enjoyer is a thief. Yeah, we understand where everything's coming from, who's providing everything. All right, well, it's 8:31. Thank you all for having such nice discussion, nice points. Thank you. Please forgive any offenses. Anchakalpa, Turivyascha, Kripa, Sindhuvya, Chapi, Tinam, Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavyo, Namo. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Krishna, Hare Krishna,